Hello, my name is Aubrey Popple, and I'm going to be discussing the need for a student scheduling tool during a pandemic as part of my innovation research project. We are living in very unprecedented times right now, and so there was an opportunity recognized that, especially in a virtual academy in which I work, there is currently not a time-sensitive scheduling tool in place for students. So currently, students can come to the facility during their assigned times, but also additionally during any time there is open office hours. With the risk of virus spreading during these times, as well as wanting to really limit the amount of contact and cross-contamination going on, we recognized a need for a way to schedule students, but also wanted to make sure that it was very user-friendly for both staff and for students, because there's already enough changes going on right now. We wanted to make this as easy as possible. So the first thing that needed to happen was we needed to really decide if this was a change that was really going to be beneficial to our students and our staff, and not create more of an issue or an additional change that was unwarranted. Because we need to set up times for students to be on site for both one-on-one time, but also for really assessment needs, we decided to do a force field analysis worksheet provided by Mind Tools. As you can see here, right now, that number one driving force is the pandemic, as well as there is a high need for students to be able to have some on-site instruction and to keep students accountable for their progress. We also needed to make sure that there was time for differentiation and some really one-on-one instruction time for students. The things that really were the challenges against implementing this new tool was, number one, with everything going on, changing formats of a traditional classroom or even a virtual learning classroom is a lot to undertake. So any new technology being added to staff is going to be asking a lot. The second thing is, again, the students and them learning a new technology. While definitely much easier to implement because students already have access to the technology, it's not as big of a force, but it is a force against change. As well as it's really now saying that we're going to limit the amount of time that students are allowed to be on site. And while, the forces for change really warrant that need for a limited on-site, it really does change that one-on-one instruction time and access to the content teachers in a face-to-face option where it didn't before. As mentioned before, in previous years, the students were assigned specific times to be on site, usually in a 3 or 4 hour time block, at least once a week, if not more than that, depending on the number of courses that they're taking. However, there needs to be a limited amount of students on site to allow for proper social distancing, but also to keep track of who those kids are when it's not their mandatory time. So that really the driving force, number one, like I said, is the pandemic. So we need to make sure that whatever we are implementing is going to fall within district guidelines for student safety, as well as guidelines set up by the health department and the state and board of education. Those main decision constraints, those limiting constraints, are always cost, professional readiness, and time. The tools that we looked at, the majority of the ones that we really considered, cost was not really an issue, as we wanted to make sure that it was free. So the biggest thing is really professional readiness and making sure that the staff are prepared to implement this new tool, and then also to then teach the students how to use this new tool. So decide on which tool to use when reviewing all the different options out there after researching, quite a few of them, both free ones and those that cost. We decided to review quite a few that were free. The best thing to use was this educational technology tool request form. that could be used really by any staff member within the district, because it's not just specific to this technology, but it could be really for any technology resource that a teacher or a staff member would like to implement within any classroom. So this tool is really helpful in trying to decide which of the tools, being reviewed would be the best to implement, knowing the platforms and resources already available to the district. This tool, this specific request form, can be formatted probably best in an online format, and then placed on the district shared source for my district. That is to put it on a Microsoft form and share it through our OneDrive, because then it can go directly to, all staff members have access to that shared drive, but then it can be submitted. Once submitted, it goes directly to the Educational Technology Department to be considered. So the tool that we landed on that we're asking to be considered for implementation is to use a tool that already integrates directly into our district LMS, our learning management system, which in our case is Canvas. And so we wanted to make sure we found something that would integrate directly into that, so nobody would have calendars out in multiple formats. So we were really looking at doing something either through Microsoft Forms or in some kind of format that incorporates Microsoft, as all students and staff members have a Microsoft account set up and an email for the district, or to use our LMS, which is Canvas, as all staff members can access that directly and students can too. Plus, the benefit of using a tool that integrates into the LMS is that not only can you have access to that on your computer as we are a one-to-one district, but you can also download the app for Canvas onto your phone. And so it can be managed and maintained in multiple formats. And so there's really 24/7 access to this tool. As we prepared for implementation, we recognize that staff's going to have some time, not only to learn it themselves, but then also have some time built into the schedule to then teach the students how to use this new tool. So what we decided is that implementation for this tool would begin during orientation week. And staff members are going to do some training during some pre-planning on how to use this tool. And that way, during orientation, all students will learn how to use it before we turn it on. One additional benefit for that is that because parents can be observers of all of their students within Canvas, they can see this tool and their students' activity at any time just by logging into it. So that was really beneficial because it released or helped overcome some of the barriers that we thought might be an issue with some of our Microsoft options. So here's a look at really the rollout of what we would like to do. So we first submitted that technology request form to our Educational Technology Department. Once we decided upon using the Canvas scheduler, they then had to reach out to our partner at Canvas to have that tool turned on and released to the district so that can be pushed out through our Canvas administrator, so that we have access to that and that all students will now have access to that as well. So that was a very easy implementation. So during pre-planning, the director of the Virtual Academy will design and implement a professional development for the staff members of the Virtual Academy, the D3 Virtual Academy, so that they can learn how to use it, practice using this, and then modifying and maintaining the Canvas scheduler tool. And then during orientation, the staff members will provide training to the students on how to use that properly, how to submit requests in that, and then notify them of when that will be turned on for them to start scheduling through. The goal is that students during the first week of school will have access to that and be able to use that, and they'll be able to request specific times to be on site at a minimum of once a week. But then they'll also be able to see when there's additional openings, when they can come in for extra help on site, instead of showing up, realizing that we're at capacity, and having to turn around and go home. So that became a really big piece, was making sure that those students could see that. So that is really helpful for students, for student usage. And then we really are only going to activate the first semester and see how that goes, because we want to make sure that we are continuously evaluating and modifying the processes and changing any professional development or student training that we need to accordingly, and then implement those changes before we activate the Canvas schedule for the second semester, and allowing students to choose their time slots for that. So ultimately, by putting this tool into practice, we really want to limit the number of students on site, but then they'll also be able to, students will really be able to utilize the resources here on site a lot better, because we're going to have less people on site at one time, allowing for more one-on-one instructional time with the students that are on site. Students can also request additional times throughout the week if there are slots available to get additional one-on-one time where maybe they wouldn't have had before, even though they would be here on site. There might be, 20 or 30 kids on site, and so getting that one-on-one time, even though they're on site, might not have happened before, where now, because the amount of students that are limited, the opportunity to receive that one-on-one differentiated instruction is definitely going to be more readily available for our students. It also is going to allow our staff members to develop deeper relationships with students, because we're able to have more of that one-on-one time with those students throughout the week. The goal of the program is really to limit the number of students on site, to, again, like I said, build those relationships, but also during these unprecedented times to really just control the spread of the illness, and really limit the number of students that might be exposed. If in the chance that something were to happen on site, we know exactly who is here, and it's very limited number of people. And then by reviewing, our students' course completions and their scores throughout this first semester as we implement this tool, and evaluating their attendance records and any other reports and data, we can determine if this tool's really been effective, and we keep it going forward even if it wasn't during a pandemic. So adjustments to this tool are pretty easy to do and can be maintained by the staff after they have done their professional development and really understand this tool. And then any updates to this Canvas scheduler will be passed along through the instructional technology department, or directly notified through the Canvas administrator. And the nice thing is that because it is embedded directly into our Canvas LMS, any changes that do occur, students and parents can be notified immediately of. We really hope that you consider the benefits of implementing the Canvas scheduler to this program, and look forward to providing this resource for our students. Thank you.